Hello, and welcome to this candidate forum with the candidates for the Novato School District, sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Marin County. I'm Alison Howard, member of the League of Women Voters, and with me is Joan Brown, our timekeeper. There are 5 candidates running for 4 seats for a 4-year term. The candidates are Debbie Butler, Tom Cooper, Lee Hamovitz, Greg Mack, and Ross Millerick. The candidates have been invited to make opening statements of 90 seconds. We'll begin in alphabetical order, beginning with Debbie Butler.
Great. Hi, I'm Debbie Butler. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for providing this opportunity and this forum. For the past 9 years, I've served as trustee on the Novato School Board. 9 years ago, my son was a 4th grader and my daughter was a 1st grader at Hamilton School. Today, my son is attending Cal Poly San Luis Obispo for his 1st year, and my daughter is a sophomore at Novato High. Besides having a child still in our schools, which I believe is important to provide that balance on the board, I bring experience and decisive leadership. I've demonstrated the commitment that it takes to be a board member by being active, informed, and engaged. I continue to stay current on local, state, and federal issues in order to advocate on behalf of our students. I bring strong leadership. I'm prepared and do my homework. I'm visible at our school sites as well as our district and community events. My priorities are continue to maintain fiscal stability, protect our local control, and ensure accountability. I also want to make sure we continue to attract and retain the best qualified personnel while providing them the tools to be successful. We also need to continue to provide innovative and effective programs and maintain a rigorous and differentiated curriculum, while providing equity and access for all students. Continuing to strengthen our communication and engagement through collaboration, transparency, and constructive dialogue with students, staff, parents, and community. I'm passionate and believe in public education and that all students deserve an education that prepares them for college, career, and citizenship. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tom Cooper.
Thank you. First of all, thank you to the League of Women Voters for sponsoring this event. I've served as a trustee in the Novato Unified School District School Board for the past 8 years, and for one of those years I've served as president. I've served as the president of the Marin County School Board Association for 2 years. I'm a parent of 2 daughters, both of whom have graduated from Novato High School and benefited greatly from our schools. The district has had some challenges over the past 4 years. We've come through and survived one of the most difficult financial times in recent history. This district, under the current board's leadership, managed to keep most of these services intact and cuts away from the students. Our class sizes are still low, and we've been able to give our employees the well-deserved increases to their compensation. We in education are in an exciting time. We have the new Common Core state standards. We are preparing our students to have success into the future. I recently visited one of our school classes and saw a great collaboration going on in the classroom. They're engaged and excited to be learning. Novato Unified School District is a very diverse community. I feel strongly that we need to direct our attention to the high achievers as well as the ones that are underperforming. Finally, I think Novato Unified School District is in good financial position now, and we need to be mindful of the future and the importance of living within our means. I will be looking at ways we can cut expenses, looking into ways of maximizing some of our assets. I will work diligently on these and other important issues that affect our students. Thank you.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to Lee Hamovitz.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm the father of an 8th grader at Sinaloa Middle School, and I'd like to start this with a question. The question is, how was school today? It's a question that every parent asks, and I think it's a question that the school board needs to be asking themselves. We get only one chance to educate a child. They grow, they graduate, and then they're gone. And we have to get that education right for every child in the school district. We need to have a sense of urgency about this. The incumbents do not show a sense of urgency about the education of our children. They may say the district is well positioned for the future, but that's simply another way of saying we know what we need to do, but we haven't gotten around to doing it yet. The incumbents may say they are doing a good job, but the fact is that our test scores are lower than any other of the school districts in Marin. The incumbents were elected to guide the district, to direct policy. Instead, they have become an arm of the administrative staff, simply rubber stamping whatever staff wants. We have a board that follows but does not lead. We have a district without transparency, a district without outreach, and a district that treats parents as opponents, a district that inflames the community every time a major issue is touched. When we send our children to school, we need to know they are getting the best possible education. The board can't say they'll get around to it tomorrow. The right education needs to happen now.
Thank you. And now we will hear from Greg Mack.
Hi, I want to say thank you to everybody for having us here today. Thank you to the League of Women Voters. My name is Greg Mack. I've been living in Novato for almost all my life, 45 years. Raised in the district, graduate of San Marin High School, just like my wife, went to UC Santa Barbara, got my master's degree in economics. As well, my kids all went to Novato schools, with my son, also a UCSB graduate, now going to pre-med. My daughter, a junior at Brown, and my son, my youngest son, still in 8th grade at San Jose Middle School. I bring 3 kind of primary competencies to this role. One, I have a deep financial background in financial analysis planning. I build budgets for banks, have been for a long time, that strategic planning. As well, I have a real deep background working for Fair Isaac in data analytics. So I have a lot of experience and kind of a data geek when it comes to going through data, figuring out what it means, and using it to figure out how to go forward. I think that really applies to this job, especially with the Common Core era upon us. Lastly, currently I'm really heavily involved in technology consulting. So I work with web startups and do a lot of work with technology, have a real deep understanding of how it works. And in doing so, I think I can bring a lot of background to the technology side of the equation. Why am I doing this? I've been recruited for a number of years to do this by superintendents, principals, teachers, even some board members. It's time. We have a great group of people. Convergence is here. We can actually bring this district from good to great. And that's what I'm hoping to do by bringing in really more resources that we're bringing. Thanks.
Thank you.
We're out of time.
And now we'll hear from Ross Millerick.
Hi, thank you very much to the League. My name is Ross Millerick. I've served on the board. I'm an incumbent. In the time that I've served on the board, the school district has grown significantly in terms of stability. We have dealt with physical plant issues. We've dealt with test scores. We've dealt with teacher training. And we extended athletic programs, and we've expanded academic offerings. That's just foundational. We've just gotten through 4 years of one of the toughest budget cycles in the state of California. We've also transitioned this district to a new superintendent and a new HR director and new curriculum directors. And with the additional budget the state's going to offer because of the increased financial positions, we are in a position to transform the Novato School District from something that is just getting by and serving the kids to something that will be absolutely great. We have programs that we can expand MSA. We have the new STEM program at San Marin. We have the new robotics program at San Marin. We have the collaboration with the College of Marin. The students at Novato High are currently taking a class, 24 students are taking a class in Mandarin, which is offered by the College of Marin. The kids are excited and thrilled. We have new opportunities, and we can be a great school district with the right leadership, and I hope to work with this board to do that.
Thank you. And now for the questions. We will rotate the order of the candidates being able to answer the question first and last. Candidates will have 1 minute for answers. Question 1 order will be Tom Cooper, Lee Hamovitz, Greg Mack, Ross Millerick, Debbie Butler. And I will remind you of the order. That is my job. So we're going to begin with Tom Cooper. What is your vision for the ideal public education? And how close would you say the district is to meeting this ideal?
My ideal school education system would be one where every single student within the district has an opportunity, gets the opportunity to be the best that they can be. I want them to be productive citizens into the future, whether it's college and career or career. So I can see we have to work on both ends of the spectrum and bring everybody along.
Thank you. And Lee, what would you have as your ideal public education, and how close is the district to meeting that vision?
While the district is a good district, we have an area in Novato which has great volunteerism, is willing to tax themselves to provide for education, And we actually have a small student body of roughly 8,000 students. So Novato has the potential as a district of giving a terrific education to students that allows them to not only learn intellectually, but allows them to grow socially and emotionally so that they can better take their place in the world as adults. We need to be able to reach across schools, across socioeconomic lines, connect students in different and new ways that allow them to ignite their spark of curiosity and ignite their intellectual spark so that they grow to their best possible ability. We're not doing that now. Now it's simply the old-fashioned, the bell rings, you show up, the bell rings, you show up. And there's so much potential in the future with technology and new ways of looking at education.
Thank you. And Greg?
So that's a question you can answer so many different ways, but I think the key is you need to look at each individual student. Each individual student has different needs. While I think we do a great job from 8 to 3, whatever the time is, to educate the kid, we can really look beyond that holistically. What drives each student to want to come to class every day, whether it's academic, whether it's some sort of beyond academics type of activity. That's what we need to build, because over the last 10 years, we've had a real rough time from a budget perspective and understandably have cut our budgets to focus just on pure academics. And while that's certainly what we want to do ideally or ultimately, we need to also focus on everything else to, as Tom said, make every kid in our district a productive member of society. And that's, while academics is central to that, we need to round them out and provide all the additional functionality or activities that allow them to do that. So once again, getting each kid to actually want to go to school, what is that, and identifying that.
Thank you. And Ross, your vision for the ideal public education.
Thank you. First and foremost, this is a school, and there's academic content that you have to have in order to fulfill that core functionality. That's the A through G requirements, and a clear focus on what those are to make sure that you don't, in the process of dumbing down the programs, curtail kids' choice later in life. We have to get that right. But more importantly than that, this is a community. Novato's a small town. This has to be a place where parents and children and students come together and get to be part of a community that has extra activity. We have that in Novato. We have Robotics Club, we have MSA, we have the ROTC program. We have programs that have gone beyond the classroom, and we maintain them through tough budget times because of volunteer efforts and volunteer fundraising. Now with improved state funding, we have a chance to grow this program and expand it. This is a wonderful opportunity in front of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Debbie?
My ideal public education is we have to serve the whole student. We cannot just serve the student academically. We provide services that serves the whole student completely, because every student arrives at our district and will continue to arrive at our district differently. Every student is different. We are not a cookie cutter district. We serve each child individually, and we have to continue to do that. We have to provide an environment in the classroom that is engaging, enriching, and they have access to all of the needs that will serve them in the classroom. We have to make sure our financials are in place, and we need to be financially stable. That needs to continue to provide that ideal public education. That is a biggie. And our teachers need to be engaged and prepared and have the professional development they need in order to be successful as well.
Thank you. And for our next question, we'll begin with Lee. What are the district's greatest capital needs right now, and how should those needs be addressed?
We have a number of facilities that are actually, if not at the end of their useful life, but still need great upkeep. Tremendous maintenance has been deferred, and we're at an interesting point of balance. We have facilities that are relatively old, that need update, and to update them for the future, they're going to probably have to be tremendously remodeled and revisioned. This is going to require probably bonding. We're going to have to go back to the voters again, most likely, but there's no way that we can move the district into the future without upgrading the physical plant, without upgrading the classrooms, the schools, providing the open school, the open classroom plan that is necessary in order to incorporate technology. Our infrastructure in technology is horribly underwhelming. The broadband use in the schools is terrible. And thank you.
Thank you. And Greg,
Sure.
what would you say the district's greatest capital needs are, and how would you meet those needs?
I think it's pretty obvious. Everybody been to our schools. There's all kinds of schools that are well past their life. We all know that. And a bond is definitely something we all know we need to do. Several schools need to be really completely revisited, as we know, but money doesn't come out of thin air. Similarly, there's a number of schools that don't have air conditioning. Being at a middle school where there's a competition amongst the teachers to see what was the hottest classroom last week, 92 degrees, set the high. So obviously that's not a good learning environment. Similarly, beyond the actual schools, which is pretty obvious, fields. There's a number of fields that are really substandard because we can't water them, so we have to look at turf. And last but not least, technology. While I agree we need a better technology infrastructure to a degree in terms of investing on top of it, I think the physical infrastructure is actually very, very strong. We just need to invest resources to use it, to take advantage of it, and that's what we haven't been able to do yet.
Thank you. And Ross?
Whatever money we spend in the school system has to be driven by the goal of academic achievement and the programs that we're going to offer. Spending money because a building is old doesn't make any sense unless you know you're going to use the building for some academic purpose. So I think the clear areas that we are spending money on and we need to continue to spend money on is maker spaces. We need to expand the STEM program at San Marin and give it a physical plant so that can exist. We need to we have a pool at Novato High, which is wonderful, we just built. We don't have a pool at San Marin. There's no comparable facilities at that end of town. We just expanded 2 soccer fields to be full standard soccer fields, but they were done in a very economical way. They need to be upgraded with modern facilities. We need to go back to the community and say, not only do we think these are great academic ideas, we need to ask the community what they think we need to be doing and put together a program so everybody can get on board with a program that upgrades their facilities for a modern education system. And that is what we need to do in the next 4 years.
Thank you. And Debbie?
Yeah. Our capital needs are wide and expand across the board. Our oldest school is from 1952. Our youngest school is 1968. We have work that needs to be done besides just the physical elements of the classroom, because we don't teach in the classroom in rows of desks. That environment is going to change over the next year, and we have to create an environment that's for today and for the future in serving our kids in the classroom. So we have to come up with a different style of the classroom, and that's going to take a fair amount of funds, but we have to provide that environment that is enriching to our kids, and that's the way we're headed. Technology, I think we're in a pretty good place as a district. We're probably one of the best here in Marin County in technology. We continue to have work to do as always, because technology is on the forefront of being in the classroom, and that is important. So the access points there need to be available. And fields, just as we've heard, is important, that we provide the academics outside of the classroom.
Thank you. And Tom?
Thank you. Our district needs for facilities, and I think everything that we do, we need to look through the lens of what we need to achieve academically, programmatically. If we're going to have a new STEM program at San Marin High School, which we just implemented, we need to have the facilities for those. We do not have enough, we've recognized that. We don't have enough classrooms to support that STEM program. So it has to be driven programmatically. It can't be driven by, ultimately our buildings are old, but we've done a good job of maintaining them and doing deferred maintenance. So it's not the brick and mortar, it's more the programmatic stuff. And to that end, so that's one issue. Another issue is the athletic situation and the performing arts. I'd love to see a performing arts center at both high schools, actually a new one at both high schools, as well as equity. Let's put a pool, as Greg mentioned, at San Marin High School. So those are kind of the things that I'd focus in on.
Thank you. For our next question, we'll begin with Greg. So there's been a lot of emphasis and even some discussion here about STEM and education in our area being so close to Silicon Valley and the tech industry. But there's also been a discussion of STEAM and including the arts in STEM. So they've change the acronym slightly. So how would you ensure that the social sciences, humanities, and the arts are all emphasized and supported as part of the curriculum?
Oh, this is a great question. So obviously we have MSA. MSA is a fantastic program. If you haven't seen it, I highly encourage anybody who hasn't seen it to go look, because the programs they have going there for the arts are off the charts. They're some of the best, in my opinion, in the state, well, maybe Northern California. But anyway, but similarly, we do even have some product design classes going on at MSA, which is bridging the gap between art and engineering and 3D printers, that kind of stuff. So STEAM is actually already happening, if you will, at MSA. However, that's at MSA. STEM, as Tom talked about, is a fantastic program that's going on at San Marin. There's by no means is it limited to just engineering and math. They are expanding to environmental management, if you will, and world leadership, if you will. And the problem we need to address is we need to give STEM more resources so they can catch up to MSA in many respects, so that we can actually even out the two high schools. Because ultimately we'd like to see both high schools about the same, but have people make decisions based on academics rather than geography. And that's what would really help out.
Thank you. And Ross?
I'm an engineer by training. I've got a graduate degree out of Berkeley in the STEM field, water resource management. But if you live at a world-class university, engineering is not a practice where you read a book and implement. At that class of university, you are creating the basic underlying protocols and standards. So building a dam is as creative as doing an artistic art form. The notion that engineering is not creative art is incomplete. If you design an F-35 jet, that is as much art, or an SR-71, that is as much art as any technical fact. Leonardo da Vinci made his own paints. These two fields are always and always have been integrated into a single logical consequence. And we need to include the artistic side of everybody's character and personality as we teach the technical side. These should always be taught together. And we need to add art to STEM at San Marin and STEM to art at San Marin, or at Novato High. We need to put them together.
Thank you. And Debbie?
Yeah, I can agree. I agree with Greg and Ross as well. One of the major points of the Common Core State Standards is crossing curriculum across subjects. So whatever you might teach something in math, that could be related to English and vice versa, or science can be related to English. And that's the idea where we're not in silos anymore, and we are crossing over subjects and departments, and they're communicating with each other and how they can implement something across departments, as I said. So I think we're headed in that direction, and we have room for improvement with MSA, and then with at Novato High and STEM at San Marin. And I hope down the road that maybe those become open and that kids can go to either one of those. And I know, Greg, you've talked about that before, and I think it's a great idea. It's been on my radar as well, that we allow kids to just go whatever high school they want based on their need.
Thank you. And Tom?
Thank you. I think we've done a good job of recognizing in Novato that there is an importance to the STEM program. There is also an importance to the arts. If you look at MSA, look at Novato High School, that program is very, very robust. It's been very robust for many, many years. We've also, as Greg has mentioned, we've started some design, computer design, CAD work there. So this science part is working there as well. There's coding going on there it's just amazing. So there is some crossover there, but when you look at San Marin High School, the STEM program there is really, it's starting to take off. At the interest level is extremely high. But it's not just, San Marin isn't just limited, as Novato High is not limited to just arts. We've got a great drama and theater over at San Marin High School, one of the best. So it's important to do both, and I think some kind of hybrid is important.
Thank you. And Lee?
This is a great question and speaks exactly to why new people need to be put on the board. People talk about the STEM program at San Marin. It's a fabulous program, a terrific program. It's highly impacted. It only allows for 60 students. And this is a good example of the board not taking not paying attention to detail and not being prepared to roll a successful program out to a wider audience. Likewise, there's the information technology program at San Marin, who are now working with computers that are 7 or 9 years old, that are broken. So it's one thing to be a ribbon cutter, to announce a program and say, oh, look, we're doing a great job here. But it's an entirely other thing, and it's the board responsibility to go back and make sure that those programs are actually working. MSA is a fabulous program my stepson went through, but it also went through years, or, well, not years, but a couple of years of turmoil and was up in the air. And the board just sat back and did nothing. We need a board that involves themselves with the programs.
Thank you. The next question will begin with Tom. How far along is the district in implementing the Common Core standards?
Great question. Thank you very much. I think we're fairly well along. We're doing a great job of assisting. You know, anytime you bring a brand new, and it's totally nuts to bolts. It's everything. The curriculum is totally changed. So a really important aspect of that is training our teachers, and we've done professional development has been very, very high on our list. So that's got to happen. The collaboration between different teachers within a school or within the district is really important to spreading that knowledge throughout the district. Who's successful, who's not successful. Let's see what we can do to help you get better in that regard. I think, but I think if you walk into the proof's in the pudding, when you walk in the classrooms, you see that collaboration going on. You see students working in groups, problem solving amongst themselves. You don't see the teacher lecturing at them, and that's probably one of the key things with Common Core. So we're on our way.
Thank you. And Debbie?
Yeah, Common Core is fully implemented at Novato Unified across our schools. We've been on it for the last couple of years, and making sure the big thing is professional development for our teachers. That is the number one thing. And that'll be continuous over the next few years in making sure that they have the tools they need to be successful in the classroom. It's also changed, Common Core has changed the way we teach to kids. It's the depth of knowledge that we reach to. It goes a little bit deeper now. It's not just let's find the answer, let's find out how you got that answer and reflect on it. It's critical thinking skills. So it's a whole change in how we deliver teaching and learning in the classroom. And again, I go back to professional development is the number one thing.
Thank you. And Ross?
We're making good progress in Common Core. We started early, and as part of Common Core, there's also a testing strategy, and the Novato Unified School District volunteered to participate in the testing strategy to validate the methodology and to validate and help our teachers become more effective in doing that. As part of that, we dropped $1 million in funding in order to make sure Wi-Fi connectivity was available in every classroom. We tested that during the test cycle, so there was no problem at all with any kid being able to take the test. In terms of technology, some kids who were young, who were not as keyboard literate, have had some struggles, but that's a state level issue, not a local issue. So we were ahead of the state in figuring that out. In terms of the requirements for teachers learning how to teach to Common Core, it is a much more demanding curriculum for both the student and the teacher, and we've provided lots and lots of mentoring to make sure we're effective in the children learning the content.
Thank you. And Lee, what is your assessment of the implementation of Common Core?
I think the district has done a fine job implementing Common Core. I think the district has done a fine job implementing Common Core. I think the real issue is the district support of teachers, who I understand have a 15% turnover rate, and also the district's job of outreach regarding Common Core. This is a major change in the way children are educated. It's a change unlike any that anybody in my generation has ever gone through. And I don't think the district reached out to the parents. I don't think the district reached out to the community and really explained that there were two aspects to Common Core, the curriculum and the skills base that was needed for that curriculum. And so you had a lot of unnecessary confusion. I think also the support of the teachers is reflected in the fact that there is this 15% turnover rate. Teachers need to grow not just in salary, but they need to grow professionally and personally so that they look forward to coming to school, that it's more rewarding just being a teacher than simply, it's not simply a job, it's the rewarding being a teacher.
Thank you. And Greg?
Yeah, so I think we've done a great job getting started with Common Core. In fact, I think, like you guys said, I think we're ahead of the game. We had some great transitional work done. Was it perfect? No, there's bumps, but there's going to be bumps. There's bumps everywhere, but I think we have less bumps than anybody else. However, it's not an overnight process. You don't just flip a switch. This is going to take a long time. It's probably not going to be done until those first third graders get all the way through. So there's more to come. We have to keep on focusing on this transition. Similarly, teachers, this is a lot harder job. They have to teach Common Core is a lot more difficult than teaching a rote subject. It's kind of like, basically the idea is that if you do a math problem, solve a math problem, solve an English problem, in the real world, you do both. And that's what they're trying to teach. So it's very important, as everybody else has said, professional development is critical. We have to keep doing that, but as well, we got to keep these teachers. We got to invest in these teachers and keep them, because we can't put all this investment into training and then lose them. So as Lee said, turnover is a big issue. We need to make sure that we stay on top of that and address it as best we can with support.
Thank you. Debbie, we're going to begin with you for the next question. Will you describe the achievement gap in the district and what causes it and what can be done to shrink the gap?
Okay. The achievement gap in our district is the equity of, you have the high achieving kids and are scoring very well, and then you have our low achieving kids who aren't doing as well, and there's that gap in between. It's pretty simple. And we have to, each student is served differently, and we have to find the niche in the classroom of how to serve each child individually. And providing additional resources for those kids who are in the lower part of the, are not doing as well, and to bring them up. Each student is different, as I've been saying, and to provide them the services. So it's called equity and access, and we have to provide that to them, to the students, the services they need in order to bring them up to the kids who are high achieving and are doing great and on their own, they're doing fine. These kids down here are going to need additional services, additional outside sources, and Novato Unified is doing that. We are providing additional services for those kids.
Thank you. And Tom?
So the achievement gap has been a point of discussion for as long as I can remember. So it has not gone away. We keep, our goal is obviously to eliminate it. Haven't been completely successful in that. Novato Unified has done an excellent job in bringing those lower achieving kids. Number one, you have to identify them, you have to test them. We have formative testing throughout the year, keeping a very close eye on achievement. So if there is an issue that comes up, or a student has been identified as specific need, we've done a good job through community liaisons. The district has, much of the work is including parents in this whole thing. Parents, of these kids do not get engaged. If you don't go out, we actively go out into the community and reach out to them, engage them. So they become it's ownership. So we're doing a lot. So I feel happy that we're heading in the right direction.
Thank you. And Lee?
Hi, the achievement gap is again one of those issues where when you drill down into it, you see the lack of outreach and the lack of attention to detail. We have some serious economic steps, socioeconomic differences in Novato, and we need to make sure that all of our students, especially the English learning students, are brought up to the same level as the district as a whole. And one of the ways you do that is outreach. One of the ways you do that is attention to the individual student. One of the ways you do that is paying attention to the student's larger learning environment, the family, as has been mentioned. But again, we have a district which wanted to hire a liaison and didn't get around to hiring that liaison until the beginning of the school year. So while somebody should have been out during the summer talking to parents, bringing parents on board, getting parents involved in their children's learning, they missed that opportunity.
Thank you. And Greg?
So the achievement gap is pretty intractable. It's not just us. And you read the literature, no one really has an answer. It's very hard to address. That said, there are some things that I think we're doing. We have a lot of point solutions, but I think we might want to look at how to combine those point solutions into an overarching strategy. Things like AVID, PK, et cetera. that's one thing. The other thing is differentiated learning, which Common Core really addresses. The whole idea of allowing different kids with different abilities to work in the same classroom so that the kids that are trying to keep up have a chance to, so they're not tracked off in the 4th grade and not able to actually close that achievement gap. With regard to results, unfortunately, the new results, it seemed like we were narrowing it, and I'm not just pointing to Novato, but I think in general, but the achievement gap is stronger than ever. So I think it's a very important thing for us to address, and I'm looking for ideas on how to do it from an overarching perspective, and it's really going to require probably a lot of data and ultimately individual education plans, I think is the real challenge for us.
Thank you. And Ross.
The achievement gap is real, and it's it can be caused by 2 separate areas. One is that a child has a different basis that they're coming from in a different family situation, and that's hard to address. You have to go out and meet the individual parent. You have to get them on the campus. You have to engage them. We have principals who walk the neighborhoods looking for baby carriages to introduce themselves, so 4 years later that child will come to the school and they know it's a home that they can have. I have participated in the Algebra Academy out at Loma Verde, where we outreach to kids where their specific individual students get instruction. The bigger concern that I have is we have some institutional barriers where a counselor directs some kid who's not English literate away from a college course, and as an institution we need to be very sensitive to those, because that's not somebody suffering from their own limitations, it's that we impose them on them. That's an area that as a district we need to be extra cautious on, and we are focused on and looking at now this year as we have in years past.
Thank you. Building on that question, we're going to start with Tom for our next question. How can the district support students in high school that are not able or ready to go to college? Are there technical classes that could be brought back? Maybe a partnership with College of Marin? Sources that students will have.
You're helping me.
Just so we touch on some of these ideas. Sorry.
Yes.
I'll switch places with some of you. Yeah.
To answer that question, yes to everything you said. One of the main things that I think is we have to offer more than one option. I want our kids when they graduate from Novato High or San Marin to be ready to go to college. If they choose not to go to college, that's great. We need to prepare them for that as well. If we see that they are interested in, I'm not really necessarily interested in going to college, but by the way, I want to go over and build robots or work for Microsoft or do something. We need to facilitate that. And the way to do that, in my mind, is offer some challenging classes. I think the idea, as you mentioned, actually, partnership with College of Marin, which Novato Unified and a couple other districts in the county here have started. And it's called Compass Program, and it's it's going to be the success to that question you just posed to me.
Thank you. And Lee.
This is one of those issues that is really bright when you look at the future. This is an issue where we can take an individual student, find out what they're interested in, and using the internet, using available software and available programs, custom make an education for them that allows them to fulfill their potential, to follow their interests. There are programs in what are called nano certification, where you learn just a little bit about coding, you learn about auto mechanics, you learn about auto electronics, about avionics. We need to treat these students who aren't going to go ahead to college as individuals and pay with just special programs designed specifically for them. There's just great potential in this field. This is an exciting possibility for all of our students to go in that direction.
Thank you. And Greg.
Sure. So as Tom mentioned, Compass is a great program. We're already working with College of Marin, and I took the tour and I was pretty impressed. There's some really cool stuff going on there, especially with the auto shop stuff. That said, though, I think at the same time, we still need to give kids the foundation to be able to do whatever they want to do, whether it is a college or it's some sort of professional career. But at the same time, not every kid's going to go to college. And I think there has been a mistaken thought process that we've all kind of tried to push kids off to college. So that said, Auto shop is one, but as well, there's technology classes at San Marin, the one that Lee's talking about. That's actually, there's a networking operation going on there. Kids can learn to be network professionals. They can also learn to be IT professionals. There's also the design class, once again, at Novato High, is teaching kids how to go out into the world of design and also go into the trades. One thing I think we probably do need to be careful of is we aren't paying attention to the trades. We might need to go back to that good old wood shop, but maybe in a different way, a new invented wood shop.
Thank you. And Ross?
Not every person, every child is, and not every person or every child is going to end up with a college degree, a 4-year or a 6-year degree. But we need to make sure that they have the choices and the opportunities. And as you bring college courses onto the high school campuses and they have the vision to see what's possible, they can see that they have a choice. And what may come from that is a person decides that they want to be in the trades, they want to be an electrician, or they decide they want a 2-year degree and they want to be a court reporter or a dental hygienist, or they want to go out into a 4-year college. Our job is to open the doors for all of these kids and make sure that every one of those paths that they choose, they can be successful economically and continue to live in the county that we all live in. We have to make sure that all of those opportunities are open and visible to every one of the kids.
Thank you. And Debbie?
Yeah. I think it's been said here that we know that not every child is going to go to college, but we can prepare them to go to college, and that's our job. And then once they get to graduating, they have an option of deciding what they do, but we know we've prepared them for either or, for college or career. One of the things I think we'll probably be starting to look at is career technical education pathways, career tech pathways, and that a student takes a few courses during their high school years in relation to a career, a path that they would like to go down, and they have a few classes each year relating to that subject matter or to that field that interests them. And I think that is going to make high school so much more engaging for a student to find that pathway that they like and to be able to have that opportunity in their high school years to take the courses.
Thank you. For our next question, we'll begin with Lee. What specifically would you like to see your superintendent focus on for 2016?
I think the number one thing to focus on for the new superintendent is bringing a sense of transparency to the district and a sense of public outreach to the district. I have sat in district meetings regarding transparency. I have sat in district meetings where district staff has blamed parents for a bad meeting. And I have talked to school board members who have said that they have no power to change policy. We need a district that has better transparency, that explains how decisions are made, who's making those decisions, why those decisions are being made. And part and parcel of that is better district outreach, is extending that information out into the community with a better website, with better flows of information to the community, explaining what the district is doing. They operate too much in isolation, and the superintendent has a large role to play in pushing district policy out into the community.
Thank you. And Ross?
I think the most important thing for the superintendent to focus on is student achievement. And the way to do that quickly and fast is to provide training and focus on the faculty to make sure that they have the skills needed to be able to do the new curriculum. We can't wait till next year for those students to be successful. I think that's well underway already. The immediate thing right behind that is to improve the public outreach to the community. We have a man who we hired specifically for those kinds of skills and that kind of personality. He served in Novato at Hill School as an assistant principal. He knows this community well. He's well connected to many, many people in this community who have been long-term residents, and his process of outreach has already reflected in many ways, and I expect in the next couple of months we're going to see even more of that. This year will be dramatically different than years prior because of the person we hired.
Thank you. And Tom?
I agree with Ross. Clearly the most important thing is for a new superintendent or any superintendent is to follow the academic achievement and success of our students. Secondarily, in our district, I think it's really important to, and this has been touched on, is to be available to the community and staff. Okay, so what does that mean? That means, to illustrate that, I can't even keep track of how many meetings he's gone to. He's gone to probably 50 meetings with various stakeholders in the community, every teacher. He's made a point of meeting all the teachers, staff, so that's huge. So the academics is important. That's number one. To facilitate and make that happen, these other things are foundational that need to happen as well.
Thank you. And Debbie, what would you like to see the superintendent focus on?
Yeah, one of the things that we do as a board once we hired Superintendent Hogaboom is we sat down with him and set up some priorities. So I think that speaks to what we would want him to do as our priorities. They're equity, student success, staff support, community engagement and involvement. Those are the 4 areas, and they're in depth. There's more detail to them, and I won't get into them, but those are where we would like him to work on this year. One of the first things we have to do, though, is build some trust in this community, in Novato, build trust again with our community, our students, our teachers, and he is doing that, as Ross and Tom have spoken to, and he's out and about meeting our community partners, working with our teachers, with our principals. He is really providing support to them and saying he's there to help them along the way and do what we can to be successful. So I'm really pleased with where we're headed right now.
Thank you. And Greg.
Yeah, I would agree. Jim's a great hire. He's really jumped into the job, but at the same time, I have to say he's jumped into a great job because he's got a great infrastructure put in front of him to allow us, like I said, to go from good, we're pretty good, to great. And we have an opportunity with all of the groundwork that's been laid to actually achieve that. So as well, though, I think we need to continue to push teacher support, whether it's in terms of staffing or not necessarily comp, but just the overall support. We did that with hiring a new HR person, but as well technology, giving the teachers the data they can do their job, and coordinating all of these new pieces that are out there. That's going to be Jim's job, and that's going to be tough because there's so many new things we've got going on. Coordinating it will be key, and I think you start with the planning process. Last but not least, marketing. I know we're not a corporation, but a little bit of marketing would be key because ADA is going down, but we don't have to just accept that. We can actually bring in more folks by doing just a little bit more marketing. Just put a little bit into it.
Thank you. Our next question will begin with Ross. How should teacher performance be measured, and what are some challenges in evaluating teachers?
So the rules are pretty clear. Teachers have a supervisor that manages them. They have a right to have a single supervisor that does that work. The model for doing that work, however, is, I think, the more important question. And clearly teachers need to be evaluated every year. There's been years in the past where we've skipped. I believe that we should go back to an evaluation every year, and it should be their immediate supervisor, which is the principal on the campus. What we haven't had, in my view, but we have this year, I've seen the plans that the superintendents talk to the principals, is the evaluation criteria against the board goals and evaluation criteria against the district goals in terms of Common Core, academic achievement, and equity are being measured. And so that matrix has been given to the principals, and the principals will use it to evaluate the teachers. I think we're going to see an opportunity for both principals and teachers to step up to doing a better job because of the new leadership.
Thank you. And Greg?
So it's certainly not test scores. So I'll just put that out right now. Test scores are a panacea. They're not really the only way you can measure the success of a teacher because obviously there's a lot more involved. But observation is obviously a key part. The principals going in and seeing what's going on and working with the teacher to come up with a game plan. But as well, differentiation. It's very difficult to do this Common Core thing, and the ability for them to work with different kids and different types of styles to actually allow them to either to scaffold them up or to challenge them, depending on where they are in that spectrum. So it definitely is a new world because we can't just use cookie cutter methods that we used to use in the past. So it's going to be challenging for our principals as well to come up with new approaches. And frankly, I think it's something we're going to have to, as a board, provided I get on it, is to actually work on exactly that because I think the old processes won't work.
Thank you. And Debbie?
Yeah, we need to continue to evaluate our teachers. We do not evaluate every single year. There are certain requirements in the contract, in our teacher's contract, so we need to be collaborative with our union in this process of evaluation. It's an important process that we do. It's important that the principal is in the classroom on a regular basis, and I know from Superintendent Hogaboom that that is a huge priority, that they are in the classroom and making those rounds, because that's the only way you're going to know if a teacher's being effective or not, and regularly checking in. There needs to be some accountability, so we need to, and it has to be a proper evaluation that it meets both needs of what the principal's looking for, and it also is not a negative for the teacher, but it's to provide feedback on how they can do better, what they're doing well, and it's important that we do it.
Thank you. And Tom?
So I think it's very, very important. It's a very difficult topic because there's many different schools of thought about teacher evaluation. So I think we're doing, or from at this point forward, our new superintendent has taken it upon, as Debbie said, has taken it upon himself to really focus in on his charges, the principals, and ensuring that they are visiting the classrooms to make sure that the teachers in those classrooms are doing a good job and serving our students. I think there's another thing. Before, when we hire a brand new teacher, we need to make sure we keep a very, very close eye and give whatever support we need during that pre-tenure period, to give them whatever support. And if they're not going to work out, that's the time to effect some change. I think professional development, if it's not just a matter of, well, it's our way or the highway, there's a way to offer professional development for teachers, also teacher trainers. There's a way for other teachers, and I think I mentioned this, to come in the classroom and work with those teachers and help them.
Thank you. And Lee?
It's expensive to hire and invest in a teacher, and we certainly should not be using test scores to grade teachers. All that does is end up having the teacher teach the test. It's not a solution to teacher evaluation. We need more observation in the classroom, and we need, when we observe teachers who aren't living up to our standards, to coach them. It is cheaper to retain a teacher and coach them, show them better teaching styles, ways of approaching the children, different ways of bringing life to a subject. It's better to do that than it is to simply say to a teacher, you're not meeting our standards and we need you to go. But there's another issue that speaks again to this board and its attention to detail. I know people who've had teachers who've had their children take notes in school on animated Disney movies. I've seen teachers not finish a complete semester of a curriculum. We need to, in addition to supporting our teachers, make sure they understand there's some basic requirements for the education and achievement of our students.
Thank you. And this is going to be our last question. We will begin with Greg. What are your 3 top goals that you hope to achieve on your during your tenure on the board?
Okay. So it's kind of an overarching theme is proactive investment. So I want to see us invest in teacher retention, because we're training them so much. We need to keep them and keep them in the district after putting so much money into them. As well, want to invest in infrastructure, whether that's technology or in the facilities themselves. There's so many different pieces of infrastructure we need to work on. I think everybody's touched on them. And beyond that, I guess the third one would be really focus on extracurriculars, because once again, we can focus all day, and we have done a great job, I think, focusing on academics, and we can continue to do that. But now that we have more funding, with the LCFF actually driving our share funds, our funds are going up from 61 million just 3 years ago to 79 million now, and they're going to continue to go up. It's time to invest in extracurriculars that have been cut to the bone. Well, they've been eliminated pretty much. Right now, football players pay, I think, $1,200 just to play football, as an example.
Thank you. And Debbie?
Yeah, my 3 top goals is one of the first things, and it was 4 years ago, and I hope that it still continues, that Novato is the first choice. Novato Unified is the first choice for the students and the children of Novato community. We do lose some kids to private school, and I think we're on the tipping point of making some great adjustments with this new Common Core and the local control funding formula, allowing us to have financial stability in a better way, that I think we're going to see much needed change in Novato Unified that's going to be very attractive to all students. So that's one of my top three, one of my number one things. The second would be really going back to the kids and making sure we are serving every student. That is continually one of my priorities that has been since I've been on the board, that we are providing the services for each child and they have everything that they need. And my third one would be technology, making sure we have enough technology for the students, the teachers.
Thank you. Ann Lee?
Hi, we're a school district, so it goes without saying that academics is far and away the number one priority. Absolutely, the education of our children is the single most important thing that we do as a school district. But past that, there's a real need for this board to no longer act as an extension of district staff. The board was elected with a sacred duty to act as oversight and to give direction and guidance to program and policy. And they have fallen down on that job. They need to no longer simply do what staff says. They need to no longer simply rubber stamp staff's requests. And past that, the third thing would be transparency and outreach. Part of them becoming an extension of staff is that, again, decisions are made in a vacuum, they're made behind closed doors, they're made in a way that parents and the public don't understand. That needs to change. So academics no longer being beholden to staff, and also outreach and transparency.
Thank you. And Ross, your top three goals.
So it's a school district. The clear objective is provide education to kids. If you miss doing it this year, those kids are lost forever. We need to be doing that as a top priority. And to do that, I believe our connections with the College of Marin have been poorly leveraged. We need to add programs. We've added MSA, we've kept ROTC, we've added STEM. There's other programs we can add to have a richer offering. I think that should be our number one priority. Our second priority is the connection to the community. I believe we have an opportunity to re-engage with the community, more board members on campus, more time on the superintendent on campus, more time for parents to talk to principals and teachers. I think that's an area where we have an opportunity to do better. And we also need to do a good job of equity. We need to make sure that the outreach isn't just to somebody who has a college degree as a parent, but somebody who is maybe didn't have that opportunity and their children need that opportunity, and the faculty needs to be reaching out to them as well. So outreach and equity and academics.
Thank you. And Tom, your top three goals.
Okay, thanks. My the first goal obviously is academics, and to make sure that our students, when they graduate, they're going to be successful. They're going to be future citizens in this world, and they're going to be successful. We've talked about this, whether it's an academic going to college or career. I want to make sure that they are successful, and we need to give them those tools. Secondly, I want to make sure that the facilities that we have in our various campuses are directly, moment of silence, there are directly lined with those goals of they should be lined to our programs. So we have STEM programs, we need to facilitate and make sure we have those necessary facilities. Thirdly, and one of the very most important ones too, is to attract and retain teachers. We've done, as has been mentioned here, we have some turnover. We're referred to sometimes as the training district. So I want to stop that to it's easy to say that, but there's a lot of dynamics that feed into that. But I want to make sure that we have the best and the greatest and we retain them. Thank you.
Thank you. That ends the questions. Before we go to the candidates' closing statements, I have some useful information about the election. Election Day is November 3rd, Tuesday. The last day to register to vote is October 19th, or to re-register if you have changed your name or address since you last voted. Your sample ballot will include a request form for vote by mail. Requests must be received by October 27th. You can watch our debates on the website of the League of Women Voters at marinlwv.org or the Community Media Center of Marin at cmcm.tv. And candidates are provided a free webpage on our election site at smartvoter.org. The polls will open in room 121 in the Civic Center on October 5th, 29 days before the election, open from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. The League of Women Voters welcomes both men and women members, and we hope you will join us in our important work. Now the candidates will make closing statements of 1 minute in reverse alphabetical order. Ross Millerick, Gregory Mack, Lee Hamovitz, Tom Cooper, and Debbie Butler. Ross, we'll begin with you.
The most important thing that we have to do for the next 4 years is to build on top of the solid foundation the Novato Unified School District has already built. We have buildings that are sound. We have a technology network that is unparalleled in the state. We have Wi-Fi in every classroom. We have teachers. We have teacher training. We have a new superintendent. We have a new director of human resources. We are in a position to make a huge difference. The challenge for us for the next 4 years is to change the academic standards that we hold for ourselves, raise them, include college tracks and include career tracks to create larger opportunities for the students of Novato, increase their opportunities to get scholarships, and allow them for a much successful position in life. This is our job as a civic agency funded by the local community. That's what I look forward to achieving in the next 4 years with your support.
Thank you. And Greg.
So I would like to use the next 4 years to really do some proactive investment in the district so that we can go from, like I said before, good to great, and really make this district a destination so that people actually move to Novato for our schools, so that teachers actually come to our district for our schools and for our programs and for our technology and for everything else that makes their job so much better. And as well, last but not least, so that the neighbors of our schools actually invest in their schools as well, in the community, so that we actually snowball to the point where everybody's supporting our schools. This is all about our neighborhood schools. This involves, once again, working on teacher retention, giving them the technology, the data, as well as the professional development that they need to do their jobs and grow in their jobs, invest in infrastructure, technology, as well as, of course, facilities. And once again, last but not least, reinvest in extracurriculars beyond just the standard school day. There's more we got to do during that danger time between 2 and 5 when kids start doing things that aren't so good.
Thank you. And Lee.
School is about more than education. It's the starting point for our path in life. And as you've heard, we've got some really big decisions facing us, some giant opportunity that we can look forward to. But part of the problem with the current district is that they've become too married to the district staff. If we're going to move ahead in a great way, if we're going to take advantage of all of this opportunity, we need board members who are independent of district staff, who have a sense of urgency, who will push the district staff rather, to do their very best job. We can't have board members who allow district staff to blame parents for something and then don't comment on it. You're voting not for programs and policies, you're voting for the members of the board, for the people who have a sense of urgency about these decisions that need to be made to carry us to the great district we can become. There's a lot of potential here in Novato. We just need to act on it and act on it in a way that's true.
Thank you. Tom.
Thank you. Novato Unified has had some serious challenges over the past several years. However, under the current board's supervision and leadership, we have positioned the district to have strong financial footing as well as making some strong improvements in the education of our children. With a AA+ credit rating, which only 15% of all the school districts in California have, we've demonstrated that we make sound decisions. This is an exciting time for education. The district has a new superintendent who is an exceptional leader. Our teachers are embracing the new Common Core curriculum and are taking advantage of much professional development. We must continue to grow our science, technology, engineering, and math programs. I'd like to see more programming classes like code writing at the Novato High School. To accomplish these things, we need more classrooms and facilities tailored to these programs. We have a very diverse population here in Novato, and I'm dedicated to ensuring that every child has the best opportunity for academic success. I'm an honest person. I do my research. I build consensus and regular site visits, and I thank you very much.
Thank you. Debbie.
Yeah, there has been a seismic shift in education within the last 2 to 3 years, and with the new Common Core state standards, the local control funding formula, the local control accountability plan, and the new state testing. Novato Unified, along with the board leadership, has embraced these changes and continues to provide strong academics through high quality instruction. So we have work to do, and we've been saying that here today, but we are on the right path to provide a great education for kids. and we will do that. When I was appointed back on the board in 2006, my reasons for wanting to serve on the board had nothing to do with an issue or concern, but I felt my background, experience, and my work ethic could add value. I still feel that way today. I'm committed, knowledgeable, I listen to all viewpoints, and I'm prepared to do my homework, and I'm visible at our schools and in our community. I look forward to serving the next 4 years and continue to advocate on behalf of almost 8,000 students. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. That ends the candidate forum. Thank you again to all of the participants in this debate, to Joan Brown, our timekeeper, and to you, the voters, for joining us.